Welcome to another great story with your host, Nick Sandino, brought to you by The Village Christian Church. Do you know any great stories? We sure do. And we can never find enough time on a Sunday morning to tell them all. Here at Another Great Story, we tell the truth about where life change, life growth, and life purpose meets our everyday life, with the hope that you might experience God in your story.
Welcome back to Another Great Story. I'm your host, Nick Sandino. Joining me today is Josh Stiegler from our Seneca Campus. Should be a fun one, getting to know this guy and see what God's been doing in his life. So sit back and relax and enjoy another great story. So, Josh, literally anybody watching this doesn't realize this is the first you and I have ever met.
Yeah, correct. Yep.
We're like 5 minutes into meeting each other.
Absolutely. Yep.
And so I wonder if sometimes people think that these things are like really highly produced, and they're not. Like, we're just two guys getting to know each other, and I just want to hear what God's been doing in your life. So, tell us a little bit about yourself. You mentioned you were talking to your wife about this, and
well, so here's what I'll tell you. I got the email from Abby.
Yep.
To come and do this. And so I actually thought, I text Patrick and said, hey, I think they made a mistake. They may have sent this to the wrong person.
Can't be the right guy.
Right. And I said, they asked me to do this podcast. I said, I've been here for a cup of coffee, so what,
Right.
And so then on Sunday I went and I talked to Abby, and she said, no, not a mistake. And then Patrick had texted me and said, not a mistake, my friend, we're excited, And so I said, oh, all right. And so I kind of processed that and told my wife, like, man, how this is, pretty wild. For me, it's always been tough to not really be vulnerable, but like to share. Right. And so I've always been the drummer and got to sit back and, just pound on the drums and then go back to my seat. And so this is a really awesome opportunity and feel real blessed that I get to do this with you guys. So.
Man. Thanks. That's awesome. So tell me a little bit about yourself. Like, where are you from? How'd you end up in Seneca? Who's your wife? What's your family like?
Yeah. So we'll start with the most important thing, and besides God, but
sure.
My wife Nicole. We've been married 25 years this year.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you, sir. And so we both went to Serena High School.
Yeah.
Now. She's a year younger. We never dated in high school.
Yeah.
And so the reason being is because she was the good girl. She was went to church and did all those things. And in high school, I was kind of I don't want to say the bad boy, but I wasn't following Christ at that time. And
sure.
Kind of doing my own thing. And so after I had graduated, she had asked me to go to her senior year prom, because she thought it would be fun. Her family, I think, was a little freaked out.
Sure.
Like, oh, Josh, really? And so we ended up dating a little bit before prom, and then we just really hit it off. And at that time, and this is just more testimony and real life, right? At that time, I was smoking. I was, I swore like a sailor. I mean, I was not in what you would call a good space as far as, my Christian, or my walk. And so she, for whatever reason, and it kind of equates to, Seneca, she saw something in me that I didn't see. And so when we started dating, she had been going to a church. Her uncle was the pastor, John Paul, a small church in Ottawa, Illinois, New Life Ministries. And they were kind of almost Assemblies of God, right?
Yeah.
And so myself, I grew up Methodist, and so all the way up until high school, we went to Methodist church and sang out the hymns and
right.
did that. And so when she introduced me to the Assemblies of God church, and
that's a shift from the Methodist,
buddy, I'm telling you. And so when you walk in and you see a full band and drums and people are raising hands and hooting and hollering, I was like, what did I just walk into?
Right.
Like, this is wild, right? And so but the one thing that I felt that I hadn't felt before was the Spirit, the Holy Spirit. I'm like, what is that feeling, right?
Wow.
And so that piece, that really hit me. And then when they found out I played drums, of course they wanted me to play. And so I started playing drums, and that kind of started my drumming in ministry role. And so now we get married in 2000. We have our first son in 2001. And so, so we've been married 25 years, have 3 kids. Oldest is 24, 22, and 20. So
wow.
So my oldest just got married in June. My middle boy's got a semester left of college. My daughter goes to Olivet Nazarene. She's a sophomore.
Cool.
Yep.
That's where I went. Went to Olivet. It makes me wonder. I'd have to talk to your wife. 2000 in Ottawa. I wonder if my grandparents, they would go to Assemblies of God over there. They were Dale and Norma Meyer.
Okay.
And they were in and out. But do you remember Meyer Brothers over in Ottawa, the John Deere dealership?
Oh, yeah, sure. Yep.
So that was my grandpa. That was my great uncle, and my grandpa would mechanic for him on and off. And then they were wrenching out at pit sticks on lawnmowers.
Gotcha.
With
wrenching out, I love that.
Yeah,
awesome.
So they were out that way. But Serena, like a lot of people probably wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Like just another small farm town, real similar to Seneca.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just north and west of there, right?
Yeah, it's a blink it and miss it town. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
But we grew up around there because of the FFA. Like
right.
Our FFAs would interact or we'd be in the same section or whatever. But that's like familiar stomping ground.
Yeah. Yeah, Serena's it's definitely a smaller town. I can tell you like going back into the Methodist church, it was one of those towns where the Methodist church was the only church in town.
Right.
And so everybody just kind of went there. We lived on the outskirts. So I grew up just off of Route 52.
Yep.
Over by the Indian Creek. That little river there down in that bridge. And so we were just over that way. But the Methodist church, and I can tell you what was fantastic about that was the first pastor that I ever met that really had an impact on me when I was young. Right. And so when we talk about like, planting the seeds and that.
Right, that's what I was just going to say.
Absolutely. And so I was a very rambunctious young man. And so there was a lot of the old farmers and all that they did not like that, right? It was get in line, stay in line, don't move. And a lot of, shoulder grabbing and, hey, and it was a pastor, his name, Gary Barber, God rest his soul. He just passed a few years ago.
Uh-huh.
He was the first pastor that actually came to me and just sat with me and just wanted to talk.
How old do you think you were when that was taking place?
So I was probably right around 10 or 11. And so that was the first real memory in church where I felt like, oh, this guy's a little different, right? And so so he took time to sit down and talk to me, and I just remember being young like that's just different,
Right.
Instead of being yelled at or told to, sit down or whatever the case was, he sat down and just wanted to get to know me. And so him and I had a really cool relationship, and then he would joke around with me. And so he had a really big impact early on.
Is that more in hindsight you can see that impact?
Correct.
Or did you know that at the time?
I did not know that at the time. And so it's hindsight because it's funny because when you guys asked me to do this podcast, it was one of those like, man, why would they want to talk to me, right? And so, because like I said, I've been the drummer, and so I've never really been out front or anything. I used to be a DJ. I've been in front of people. I've talked in front of people. I've done weddings and all of those things, and so that's never been a problem. But when I did that, then I really started to reflect and say, okay, what are maybe some of the times in my life that I didn't recognize that people did want to know more than just this, right?
Right.
The one that went to Serena High School and was great at basketball and baseball and sports, right? And so when I went back, for whatever reason, that really hit me like, man, this guy really took the time and he did want to know me. And so then throughout, then that's kind of just thinking of different steps and what, who God has put into my life to be able to have those conversations or just to get to know who I am.
Right.
And because we kind of get lost in that identity. And I'll tell you, Nick, being a father and having kids now that are out of the house, there was a period of time where what is my identity now?
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm used to raising my kids and working weird hours and doing all that.
What do you do for a living?
So I was an insurance agent, and so I actually sold my agency, and so I'm in between jobs right now. I started new on October 20th.
Okay.
But within that time...
it's like a month from now, just for recording sake, whenever this drops.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, it's great.
Yeah, yep. And so so in between that, there's been a lot of like, after I sold the agency, it was a lot of, man, what do I do? What's my identity? Where do I go? Right.
Right.
And so I really had to press in, got into a really, I say weird phase because I didn't know what I should do or, and I mean, I've always had faith, but then when I realized that, man, I'm trying to do all of this stuff myself. Like
Wow.
I'm the one that's trying to force these situations to, I'm going to do this job because this is what is best for me. And
yeah, my will versus thy will.
100%. And so really what I did is I said, I got to get some clarity on this. And I said, I've never read the Bible front to back. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to commit. I'm going to read from front to back the Bible.
Wow.
And I did that. Now I will tell you that journey was not an easy journey.
No.
Because you start off, Old Testament things, and you hear all the stuff in Sunday school and all the fun stories. And then when you really start to dig in, you're like, whoa, wait a minute. What is that all about? Right.
Right.
Now, what I can tell you is that not only was it God working on me through that, right? Because I think that's the main thing. He wants us to seek him out, right? And so even though there's questions, that's fine. That's what he wants. He wants you to, hey, I want this knowledge. I want you to have this knowledge, but I want you, to ask, to dig,
Right.
And so, just that obedience piece of it. But what it did is not only do that, but it also drew my wife and I closer because my wife, Nicole, she knows the word. She grew up and all of it. And so we had just awesome conversations. And so what turned out for me to be a situation to where it's like, man, what is my identity? My kids are gone, in between jobs. Like, man, what is this? What it ended up doing and what God did in that situation is, number one, he wanted me to draw closer and be obedient in that. I did that. Not only that, but now my wife and I, being empty nesters, are sitting down at dinner having conversations about the Bible, about God, about different situations, about things that are happening, and why is this and what's this, and man, isn't this awesome? And those turned into 2-3 hour long conversations. And so now it's like, okay, this is what it is. And so that part of
How long ago was that?
So that would have been, it was just last year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Going into last year. And so yeah.
It's intimidating. So many pieces of your story. The reason why we capture these stories is because, it's a lot of people's experience. Like religion was somebody grabbed me in the shoulder, told me to get in line.
Right.
And then somebody had a relationship with me that showed me that something looked a little different.
Right.
In hindsight, I saw it purely here. And I already forgot what was the pastor's name?
Gary Barber. Yep.
So you see it in somebody like Pastor Gary, and you're like, that looks different in hindsight when I look back at my childhood.
Yep.
And then high school happens or college happens, and you're trying to figure out, these identity shifts, on who I am now in response to these things. And sometimes it takes like a major slowdown for God to get our attention to look back at all of it. Because we are so like focused in what am I going to do come October 20th,
right.
or what am I going to do now that my daughter's off at Olivet, or,
right.
What do we do next? And I think you're in more common territory than most men care to admit. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I bring home a paycheck. I do this. I try to be a good dad, try to do this, checking boxes, and then those things shift and you go, ooh.
Right.
Where
do we go from here? Right?
Where do we go from here?
Exactly. And so that was a lot of, in that piece, knowing, okay, what is it that my kids see in me, right? And in that. And I think the big part was leaning not only into the word, but it was also leaning into worship and things like that. And so that created a shift of where we were going, currently at that time at the church that we were going to. But the one thing, and it's funny because my wife and I just started talking about it, and I didn't really, know much about it, but she talked about discernment. And so it was that discernment of just really, once I started praying for that, like, just give me a little bit of that, right? Of understanding the situation, right? Of where we're supposed to be. And we had been going to the church we were at for, we were there 7-8 years, right?
Right.
We helped them open up a satellite campus, and we're setting up and tearing down every Sunday. And we had some good relationships, but we just felt there was a kind of a pull,
So back up then. So you get married in 2000.
Yep.
You guys are how far did you guys go to college? What was the transition from senior prom to where you end up married in 2000?
So I appreciate that. My wife will appreciate that you got me back on track, because I do.
Oh no,
it's going. I 100%. I love that. I appreciate that. But no, we dated, went to prom, and then I actually went to school. I left and went up to Minnesota and went to a school called Brown Institute, and that was actually for radio. Was to be in radio as a radio broadcasting
I'm
school.
sitting here listening to you going, man, this guy should talk on a microphone more than he does. For a drummer, we got to get a microphone in front of you more.
Well, Kelsey's threatened that multiple times. So, but yeah, so I went to Brown Institute up in Minnesota, and Nicole was down here in Illinois. So we had a little bit of separation, and I think that was kind of the true test, right? As far as our relationship, like, hey, is this gonna, survive? And it did. And so I finished school there, actually got a job over in LaSalle at, people in this area probably know 96.5 and 97.7.
Really?
Yeah. So I was the first morning show DJ on 97.7 and 103.3. So
that's so cool.
Yeah, Q90. Yep, Q97.7.
Oh man, so I'm telling you to put headphones on and where to put the mic, and you're going, yeah, I've been in this setting before.
I was letting you do your thing, man. You're in control here.
There's everybody. Here's what threw me at first, and it's way off topic. Everybody puts the headphones on and goes, ooh,
right.
I don't know if I like hearing myself, back in my ears, and everybody gets real uncomfortable with it. Yeah. And I was like, man, this guy's really natural. I don't even have to coach any of this. I'm like, let's go. We've never gone from sit down, start recording that quickly.
Yeah.
With that much comfort. But it was that's really fun. So how many years did you DJ?
So in radio, I did radio for couple years. I only did it for a couple years. There wasn't a lot of money in it, and Nicole, Nicole's pregnant with Alex, our first child, and so.
And there never really is until you really break, right?
Correct. But the one thing that I really liked was I actually did. I started off doing color commentary basketball, high school basketball.
Yes.
And then I moved into play-by-play, and so I did play-by-play basketball. And I really thought now I was getting paid $20 for a game, right? But still, just the experience, I really loved doing that. So I thought that may be the jumping off point of going down that avenue. And it just didn't end up being that. And so, Nicole had gotten pregnant. And so kind of the part of me of hey, what kicked in, okay, I got to go get a job here that actually pays. Yeah. And so that started my distribution and warehousing career, and I did that for 15 plus years and traveled, took my family around the United States, helping.
Really?
Yeah, helping open different distribution centers and kind of being the head of all that.
For what company?
So there was a couple of different ones. PetSmart was of the first one I started.
They're blowing up probably in that time.
Yep. And then Kohl's, I was with Kohl's for a little while, but then all the folks that I worked with at PetSmart went down with a company called Ulta, which is a cosmetics company. Yeah. But they opened up a distribution center.
I got 4 girls. You don't have to explain
there
Ulta.
You go. And so so Ulta opened up a distribution center down in Phoenix. Well, the head district manager was rounding all these old PetSmart folks up, and he reached out to me and said, "Hey, man, do you ever think about Phoenix, Arizona?" And I said, "No, not really. We're pretty good here." We had bought a house in Peru. We were only there for a couple of years. I was at Kohl's, and I was a manager. Nicole was working for a hospital, and so. Yeah, so we were pretty set, but then he was pretty convincing, and he said, "Let's do this. You meet me in Bolingbrook at the Cracker Barrel at 9:00. Let's have breakfast and talk." And so he gave me the the offer, and I was like, "Okay, that's pretty good." And so we moved to Phoenix, Arizona. We're down there for a little bit, and then went to Pennsylvania. So we were in Pennsylvania for a while, came back to Illinois, and then went to Indiana, and then went to Indiana back to Illinois, and then Illinois to Arkansas. And then Arkansas back here to Illinois. So yeah,
you really covered the country.
we did, and our kids were young, so it wasn't easy, but the cool thing is that, you know, they got to see different parts of the United States. They were young enough to where, you know, relationship wise, they were in that phase of like, make friends with anybody type thing. And so, but it got to the point to where I was working a ton, and now they were getting old enough to be involved in sports. And so that was, okay, what's the next step to be able to have a little bit of work-life balance? And so I got into insurance, and
what year was insurance then?
So insurance would have been, that was about 8 years. So about 2016-ish, right around there.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
So, man, you're a quick start. Like, you really moved through some things quick.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And then what was your relationship with, you were never in one spot for a terrible long time.
Right.
Were you guys ever able to find church homes?
Absolutely. So that was the one commitment that we always had, is that we're going to find a church. Like that, we always wanted to get rooted, whether it was in a community or just, you know, whatever that was. And so, and we were at a point where it wasn't even necessarily, was it Assemblies of God? Was it non-denominational? That didn't matter as much as trying to find churches that were, you know, really were obedient to the Holy Spirit, right?
Wow.
And so that piece of it, you know, we went to some Assemblies of God church. We actually went to, help me out, not Nazarene. Let's run through them.
Presbyterian, Baptist.
Baptist. Yep. So it was Baptist. And it was a lot of the ladies wearing the jean skirts and old school. But the pastor was actually a bus driver. And so he picked our kids up and was the best guy in the world. Like, he always talked to us, always invited us to church. Always, the kids loved him. And so he invited us, and we're like, yeah, let's check it out. So we went, and they were in a phase of moving into playing a little bit more, you know, contemporary praise and worship. And so they're playing piano and singing, and they had a tambourine. I'm like, whoa, this is really cool.
Yeah, they're really coming around to it.
Yeah, and so those different things of like knowing that God works everywhere, and the religion piece of it doesn't, you know, it's not, you know, to me, it's never been the thing, right?
Yeah.
And so being open to that, of saying, like,
it wasn't denomination,
correct,
like allegiance. There was really something got a hold of you quick, that you started to understand, like, I want a pure relationship with the Lord here.
Well, we go back to discernment, right? I think that's the thing of going back and knowing, like, okay, is this a genuine thing? Are they obedient to what, you know, God has for this church, and wanting to move forward? And so that was the fun part of traveling, of going. We went to mega churches, you know, we went to churches that were in trailers. We just were really trying to be obedient to, you know, where does God want us now? And we would visit spots, and it would be like, yeah, these are really nice people, but this, I don't know if this really speaks to us. And so we just kind of pray about it, and we've always been big into music. And so for me, it wasn't even necessarily to go to church because I wanted to drum. It was one of those, like, no, the most important piece is the relationship, is the spirit piece of it, right? We need to be fed that way. And if drumming and music plays a part in that, then awesome. If God opens that door, then I'll walk through that door. I have no problem with that. And so, but it ended up being most churches that we went to, whether I came out and said I played music or didn't, God always found its way to have those conversations. And next thing you know, I'm up on stage playing, at Assemblies of God church in Marion, Indiana, and became good friends with the lead pastor there. And so
what church was that in Marion?
So that would have been, I cannot remember the name. That's horrible. Pastor Dave, great guy. Pastor Garth was the praise and worship leader. He was from Vegas. Dave actually, he wrote a book. I don't remember, but I don't remember the name. And when Nicole watches this, she'll be like, no, it's this. She'll probably be yell. But that was a phenomenal church. That was really good.
So how'd you get started drumming? Was that a thing as a kid? You come from a musical family?
No, so I didn't come from. So I did. So on my mom's side, my uncles, had two of my uncles. They both played drums, and so when the first thing I got into, band started like fifth or sixth grade, and I really wanted to play drums. I wanted to kind of follow in their footsteps, and the music director decided to put me at saxophone. So I was in saxophone for a year, and I'm like, I'm just not digging this. And so then she moved on to a different school, and they brought in a new guy, and so I went to him and basically begged him, like, hey, I want to play drums, you know?
Yeah.
And so he let me play drums, and so I started playing younger, nothing major, just the basic, bass drum, snare drum. And then in high school, we actually had a pep band, right? And Serena's a small school. And so I was excited about playing pep band. Like, this is really cool. It's a full drum set, and I get to learn how to play that. And then I got moved up to varsity basketball, and then didn't
get to play again.
Didn't get to play pep band. So, but going into our senior year, and I always kind of messed around a little bit. Didn't have a drum set, but was always super into it. But then my junior year, going into senior year, three of my buddies were like, hey, let's start a band. And so two of them were they were twins, the Woods Boys, and then my buddy Rich Snook, he played guitar and sings, and so we're like, let's just start a band, and like, we're no good, but let's just do it. And so we actually set up stairs in our old farmhouse in Serena, and it was me and Josh Woods playing bass. He played bass in one room, and then Rich and Jeremy, his brother, in another room. And we just opened it up and started playing. And man, we were horrible. I mean, it was bad. But I can tell you this: we had a ton of fun.
Oh yeah.
And so we eventually got good enough to where we actually started to learn some songs, and we're like, oh man, and like. And next thing you know, we know like 15 songs, and we're like, this is pretty cool. And so their dad actually set us up with a gig in Utica. Now, we were playing secular music; it wasn't Christian music, but we were playing all of the classic rock stuff and all of that. And some at that time, that's the 90s, right? So now it's like that punk, Nirvana, all of that stuff.
That's what's current, and you're playing like stuff from what, the like 80s or 70s?
And we played some of the new stuff too.
Yeah.
Yep. And so we went down and played this gig. Now, the funny part is the band name we actually named ourselves, after a very long time, we named ourselves Scurvy. And so, but it was with a K. It was Skurvee. And so we were Scurvy. So our first gig, we're like, oh, this is, Scurvy's going to play, and we roll in, and on the sign it says, welcome, Prairie City Prowlers. And we're like, Prairie City Prowlers? And then we go to their dad and say, wait a minute, and he goes, there is no way
you're putting Scurvy
on that billboard or on that sign. And
so he renamed you.
So, well, for one gig. And so, so that was the one gig. But so music wise, and then fast forward to now I'm with Nicole, Nicole's cousin, who is actually my best friend, Shannon Robbins, who's actually been attending church the last couple weeks. This is awesome. So this is how this rolls. So Nicole's my wife. Shannon is my best friend from high school, right? Nicole and Shannon are cousins. And so it was Shannon's dad that was the pastor at New Life. And so
whoa.
Yeah, right. It's kind of like the what is Kevin Bacon thing, right? Everything's kind of connected, right? And so So him and I played quite a bit there, and so he was playing guitar at New Life, and so then I started playing drums there, and then it was just kind of like everywhere I went, just I happened to find myself behind the drum set playing music. So
one of my curiosities is, when did drumming become less about the opportunity to just like play and more, when did it start to become worship?
Absolutely. That's a fantastic question. And you know what, that's one thing really within this time that we talked about, that I was, thinking when did that transition happen? And so, because it's true. When I first started playing, I was really new in my walk with the Lord, like this new walk, right? And so for me, playing it was more of a, not necessarily entertainment, but more because, man,
I like to do this.
Love playing, right? And so it wasn't. We had a Nicole left to go to a Bible college or something down in Texas for a little while, and I stayed back. Well, we had a revival at Camp Tuckabachie.
Yeah.
And so there was a little...
Went there for our 8th grade trip or something like that,
Okay.
or one of those. Maybe it was like even 5th grade trip.
Gotcha.
Got to spend the day at Camp Tuckabachie.
Yeah. So it was awesome. So we had like a little youth revival down there, and they asked me to kind of be a part of it and play music. And then it was at that time they asked if I'd be willing to pray for the kids and all of this. Yet again, at that point, thinking just like this podcast, right? Just thinking to myself, okay, I don't know why you would ask me, but okay, sure, And so at that point, that place was on fire. It was unbelievable. And that, to me, like my walk with the Lord, just completely flipped to being like, wait a minute, what is this? And so those kids, we started praying for them, and we started playing and doing those things, and it was so scary was the right word.
Yeah.
I was so scared. I ran out of that building and just looked at the building and I'm just like crying like a baby. And I'm like, what is this? This is, I've never felt this before. I don't know what this is. And I distinctly remembering, like, almost visualizing like a hand over the top of the building, and those kids in there just worshiping the Lord and being prayed for and crying and giving their lives to the Lord. And I'm like, what is, and so at that point I knew, okay, my calling in this is not just to sit back and play for myself. There's more to what's going on here, right? And so, but that feeling of the Holy Spirit, I've always, when I play, when I go to church, I'm seeking that out, because it's one of those gifts that if someone hasn't felt that in church or hasn't felt that in some sort of setting of like that, you just need to feel that. If you feel that, that's better than any high. It's better than, it is so amazing.
It's really hard to put into words.
It is.
And people on the outside not think you're crazy.
Correct.
Like there's something supernatural happening here, and we're pretty regular run-of-the-mill guys, and God's doing something that is palatable.
Right.
And so to put your hand on that, or to get to even like taste of it or experience it, those are special moments. That's like a big shift moment.
It is. And I can tell you, it's one of those that where it shifted for me, saying, okay, me playing this is not about me. This is about, this is now about, we are playing for God, and we are trying to bring people to the Lord, but we want them to feel the Holy Spirit. We want them to feel that and lead them into worship. And so the part of it is that it's also the being able to freely worship, right? And so for me, the dynamic of it went in phases, right? When I started playing, I played because I loved to play and I could play and it was good. And then I went to a phase of like, okay, now I need to take a step back and not, try to make it like, because I am animated when I play. And so, but I really dialed that back to say, no, just be a background guy. And then it got to the point where it's like, no, as a drummer, I want to worship freely too, right? It's not just about, just playing the songs and getting off stage and doing that. And so I want to freely worship. And so that meant for me that, sometimes I raise my hands. Sometimes I'm singing.
That's awesome.
But to me, it's so genuine, and I don't want that to come across as being a thing. And so the greatest compliment I can get is, and I've heard it from the village since going to the village, is we can just feel the Holy Spirit when you play, and at first it's like so confusing to me, like I don't know what that means, but whatever that is, I don't want to block that blessing, and I don't want to just say, no, don't,
right.
Because that's God. That's God working through us.
Everybody's instinct is to look at their gifting and go, oh, I'm just the guy who keeps us in tempo.
Right.
Like, don't worry, but anybody can, stomp their foot. And
right.
But it's like, then when you see it, so Sarah, our worship leader here at Manuka, who got Kelsey started and, kind of brought Kelsey up in it, and they've been really close. In my mind, like when we review or I check in or how's things going, she's like, oh, we're looking for, we need another bass player here in Manuka or something. And, or man, we'd really like somebody else to add X, Y, or Z to the band. And so in my mind, I'm like, I wonder who's got that like talent. And in her mind, it's, like I'm not looking for any performers. Like I'm always looking for, and that's her language. Like we're not up here to perform.
Right.
We're here to lead worship. And so like she's really disciplined, like the build of a worship team that like there's 6 different people worshiping on stage. And I don't always know that everybody picks up on it, but when you can see it take place, when you can see like somebody playing electric, this new guy, Mike, he's played maybe for a couple months. And like you can just see him worshiping. Like he's up there to worship and he's great. Yeah. And so like when fruit matches up with gifting, it gets like electric. It gets really like, this isn't just somebody's gifting that God gave them. This is fruit from their relationship with God too, that's being amplified. And so for Seneca, we never dreamt you guys would get, well, I mean, I'm sounding like the guy with no faith. Like we never dreamt you, like how's Seneca going to put a band up? Right. You know what I mean? Like I think our first day, like small town, I don't know what your Methodist church used to be like, but 100 people, we're like, that's a pretty great church in a small farm town,
Right.
How are you going to find 5 out of 100 that can like put a band together, So I don't know for how many years they just played with tracks and acoustic or an acoustic and a cajon, or I played over there. And I'm not much of an acoustic player, but, we would, piecemeal stuff together. So when they were like, Sarah had budgeted for drums maybe for a year, and Pat was like, we got our drummer. She was like, I'll order him. Like, we're going to buy him, like, right now. Like, it was like, okay. Like, and I tease Sarah because I'm like, if you're short a bandmate, Sarah just goes and asks the Lord for it, and then somebody walks in the next week who's like, hey, I play a little bass, and I'm actually really great at it. They don't say that, and they're, like, really humble, and it's just a wild thing to see what God's doing. So give me how'd you find the Village? Where are you living now that you guys ended up like in proximity to even find like a little red church on the corner on, 170 in Seneca? Yeah.
So the church that we had been going to, there was a transition with pastors. And so we actually visited the Village because we kind of took a time out and said, okay, we need to pray about this and what's our next steps here, or where does God, I want to say our next steps, where does God want us, right?
Sure.
Where can we, where can we be the most obedient to God and for what he has with us? And so so we went and visited a couple times at the Village. Then the other church that we were at, the youth pastor got promoted to head pastor, and we liked him a lot. He was great with our kids and all of that. And so we felt that, hey, we're going to go back. We'll go back and support him and do that. And so we left, after the couple weeks we went back, and then really felt that the Lord was like, no, I had you where I wanted you, and
wow.
And so it was a tough transition, but we're like, it's kind of like the puzzle pieces, right? My grandmother, Nanny, she always used to say, God writes straight and crooked lines. And so we weren't sure, okay, why are we feel this pull back to the Village, but we did. And so when we went back, Patrick had taken over, and we, really liked Patrick from the first time. And so we sat there, and most of the time, like going to a different, church, there was times where I just sat back and said, I'm not going to tell him my drum. I just want to just go to church and,
Sure.
But it always ended up being like, nope, God was tap you on the shoulder and, hey, you're supposed to be back there, buddy, And so I told Nicole, I said, I'm just going to be up front. There's no drum set there. I don't have any idea that a drum set's going to be ordered, but I have a cajon. And so I went up to Patrick and I said, hey, I just want to let you know, I play drums. If there's a weekend you want me to play cajon or whatever this looks like, I said I'm willing, man. I said whether
and Pat said yes, like immediately,
right? And I said whether or not this happens or doesn't, I just want you to know. And so so he says, you know what? Funny enough, we're going to be ordering a drum set, and he goes, and we were just going to kind of set the thing up and pray that God was going to bring a drummer. And I'm like, get out of town. And so when that happens and those start to, like you said, the fruit and all, kind of, mirroring up, it's like, man, this is where we're supposed to be. And so Nicole and I instantaneously. And funny enough, that red church used to be an Assemblies of God church.
Yes, it did.
With Pastor Tim McGeorge. And
was he the guy that was there forever?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Yep. And so Nicole and I actually went to a couple services at there because her parents went to that church. It was Assemblies of God, and then they built a church on that big property over there down Shipyard Road.
Okay.
So that's where they moved to.
Ah.
Yep. And so,
I don't know that I ever put that together.
Yeah. Yep. So and so they got a nice little piece of property there, but we were right in that phase of that building about being done and then moving out of the red church. And so we were familiar with the red church, and for us it was great because we actually only live about a block away. And so in Seneca.
Oh, really?
Yep. And so there's most Sundays I just walk when we have to be there at 7:30 and it's nice, it's still cool enough out. So I'll just take my morning walk, and that's kind of my alone kind of get my head straight time. And so that's kind of that's the journey with the Village so far. And I'm telling you, the playing is, I love playing and doing it, but the pure joy, because we weren't there like when you talked about when it was just, there was nothing, right?
Right.
We went and we saw that they were playing tracks and things like that. But the awesome thing and what was such a blessing for me was the fact that so many people came up and said, you don't know how long we've been waiting to have a full band. You don't,
right?
And now to see that is just amazing, right? It's such a blessing. And so that piece really hit me of like, this is cool. Like I wasn't at the beginning of it, but man, for God to put me and certain people up on the stage or in that position it was just awesome. And it's 100%. Those are things that when you walk in faith and you're open to that, you realize that's a God thing. That's not a me thing. That's not a Patrick thing. That's not a Village thing. That's a God thing.
Yes.
And so that piece it's just been amazing. And
I'm so glad. There's so many people who love our church really well. And I mean, in the purest of way. Mm-hmm. And it's like there's always like a check and balance once in a while where it's like, hey, I love our church too, and praise God for what he's done to make it lovable. You know what I mean? To do what he's done, because it's not because, it's branded well or because we got a couple, high energy people like Pat over in, you know what I mean? It's really something that God's been doing. And that's been the Seneca story for longer than its existence. Like, I mean, there have been people praying into it long before. Like Pat was praying about this in high school, long before he ever saw himself in ministry. And you're in good company with Pat because he got his start as a drummer, like here. So we were like, man, we'd love to put you on drums, move to acoustic. And I remember we'd work out together in the mornings, and he'd go, I'd love to lead worship, but I just can't sing, And then, like, I literally think he prayed about it, and God gave him enough skill to be able to sing and play acoustic. That, it's from a drummer in Manuka to community pastor, because of his walk with the Lord so consistently. Not because he was like, wow, you really showed a lot of skills on drums and a lot of skills on acoustic. The gifting, I just was talking to my oldest last night. She's coming along singing with student ministry worship here. Sarah works with her a lot. And I said, there's spiritual gifts that God gives us. Like she's a pretty good singer and you're a pretty good drummer. I said, and you guys could do those things in any avenue because God's already gifted you that. Mm-hmm. But what you'll do with that will be determined by the fruit of you walking with the Spirit, of you walking with the Lord consistently. Because there's a big responsibility when you stand in front of people and go, hey, you can watch me, I'm going to point you back at him.
Right.
And you can trust me with that. And like, so when those two things line up, when fruit and gifting line up, and I didn't come up with that. That was Leslie Butcher, who's a good friend of ours from out of state and helps us out with some things. Like, she's like, you've got gifting. Now let's get the fruit that produces that for the kingdom. And so when those things walk through the door, from a pastor's side of it, when you've been like a heart that wanted something pure and then God delivers, you're almost like, I don't know who to thank more, you or the Lord. Like, thank you. Like, thanks for listening, because we're desperate for it, you know?
Yeah.
It's so cool, Josh. Like, that just gets me so excited. So how long's it been now going to Seneca?
3 months, I think.
So 3 months, and you were going to sit in the back, but you've already been drumming like every week now for 2 of those, or 2?
Yeah. There's been maybe a week or 2 where I've been off, but yeah. But I came from a church to where, you know, we're practicing during the week, and it really felt almost like a part-time job. Like, man, there's a lot of commitment here to play, and I love playing, and I always did, and so the ease of, you know, just meeting Sarah and Kelsey and just the folks that were already in the praise and worship band, it was so welcoming, and that's the part with, you know, going to the village in Seneca that we from the beginning felt like there is a comfort here of and welcoming, and not just that, but allowing God to work and the Spirit to work, but then just really the preaching from the Scripture, from the times of where there's been multiple times where Patrick has you know, he may have gone to talk about something, you know, what he said. He said, no, stop. We're just going to read it straight from the Bible, because that's the truth. And so when I'm going to say lines up right that, but let's just read it right from the Word. And so so those things to us were like, yeah, this is amazing. And so it was like, just thank God that we were blessed to have, you know, for him to open our eyes to say, hey, where you're at now, I know you're comfortable, and I know you like where you're going and the relationships, but I have something more for you. And to be open to that, and then to go to a much smaller church. Right. But then to walk in and not even see instruments up on stage, but then to come out and say, hey, you know, I play drums, you know, if that ever happens. Oh, yeah, you know. And so all of those things are just like, man, okay, this is really working. And so now when you go back and look at, okay, this time of figuring out what's the next step here, right? Selling my agency and figuring, okay, where do I go? And saying, you know what, let's get into the Word, and then really digging into that and just allowing God to work and grow in that is just awesome. And yeah, and to see all of it start to, like, you know, now to, you know, to ripen and where this church is going. And, you know, last Sunday, the 9:00 service we had, it was packed.
I know.
There was like 100 people in there.
I know.
And it was all the way back to usually, so I usually stand. And so I sit, you know, so I usually stand in the very back, you know, during the sermon, and chairs all the way back. And it was just like, man. And what's awesome about it is there's such a humbleness to it, like between Patrick and Brittany and Kelsey, you know, the leadership over there, of just like, man, God is working in such unbelievable ways. Like, we don't even understand. Like, we don't understand what is going on.
We don't.
We don't.
Let me confirm what you're reading. We have no idea what's going on. We're just hanging on. Like,
but that in itself, Nick, is just amazing. And it's one of those things of like, I want to be a part of this. Whatever is happening right now in this movement, and what's getting stirred up in Seneca, because I'm telling you, Seneca is a wonderful town. Seneca is known for its schools, right? They got the nuclear plant money. And so they've got wonderful schools. And that was one of the reasons that we wanted to move there, for our kids to go to get in the school system, right? But there is a hunger in that town that I know that is just getting tapped into right now. And so if you look at per capita, there's more bars there than anything else. And
right.
So that's the part of it. There's just not a lot for the youth and you can see that even with the youth group with,
oh my goodness,
all those kids that are going, that's everything that's happening right now it is that movement. And it's one of those things. And Nicole and I have been involved in those things. And it is one of those, I've never surfed in my life, but I'll tell you, I want to get on that wave and I just want to ride that wave and let's roll. Let's see where this goes,
Literally, this is something Nate almost said verbatim yesterday we had what we call our huddle, like people from every campus here. Kelsey was here. Brittany was working, so she couldn't be. Maybe she was on the call. But he's like, I don't know how long this wave runs, but right now, like, this is the best. Like, this is the most fun, and there's like some burden of responsibility. There's some like foreshadowing of like, God, we want to plan. We also don't want to play your role in this and overplan it. So, like, keep opening doors and. You show us the next door to walk through. We'll try to pay attention, walk through it. And it's as simple as man, I hope we get a drummer. Like, Lord, if we could get a drummer, and as complex as, Lord, we're gonna need another spot, or we're gonna need you to do something dynamic that we can fit more people over there, because it's it doesn't seem to be slowing down. My wife went over there at the 9:00 service. So we're like 11 minutes down the road from Seneca. My wife teaches at the high school. We live in Morris, but it's right down Old Stage Road. And she had a friend from her school that was going, that was, long story. She's like, I'll go with you. And I said, I'm not preaching. Go to Seneca, hang out. And so she hustled there, took off at 10, got back over here, had the girls here at 10:30. And she's like, it's wild over there. she's like, and I'm like, hey, we got a pretty full day. And she's like, yeah, you're having a good day. You should see what Seneca's doing. Like, it's wild what God's doing. And to me, what gets me excited is it's not. This is no shade to any other church. It's not planting based on population. Like, it'd be easy to try to say we can get to like critical mass where we can make budget if we plant with the right population.
Right.
But this was literally a dream Nate had, which was way out of his comfort zone. This was some obedience from Sarah O'Sullivan. This was obedience from Pat, Alyssa, Brittany, now Abby, now, Tracy, Dan, Reed. I don't know. If I start naming people, like, you'll leave people out. Like, I just think about Monica and Marianne and Jonathan and Kate and goodness, I don't know if I said Kelsey and Neil, like Neil and I were in high school together. I wasn't thinking someday we're going to be same church, different campuses, your wife on our staff doing Christmas parties together. Like, it's just, you can't draw this stuff up, you can't draw up a pastor paying attention to a 10, 12-year-old kid and what that's going to yield 25 years later.
Right.
Yep. You just don't know the seeds that are planted. You don't know what God's doing. But, man, it's fun to be a part of. I just think that there's more people sitting in rows or not yet sitting in rows who have these stories underway and they haven't put the pieces together, that God's really active.
Absolutely.
So, Josh, I can't thank you enough. Like, from the seat from the pastor's seat, we are always desperate for God's move. And when people show up like you and your wife, it is like confirmation. It's like, thanks, Lord.
Yep.
And
it's confirmation on our end too, of letting God guide us to where we should be, and putting us in a place to where we can serve not just the church, but serve Him, and in any capacity of what that looks like, right? And so I think the next step, whether it is or not, it is that feeling of, okay, you've been doing this and you're good at this. I've given you this gift, but there might be more. And so that's the thing that we always pray about, of like, if there's more, then just open that door, or just give us a sneak peek, right?
Yeah. So if you're speculating,
Yeah.
what's the future look like for Seneca?
So for Seneca, I mean, obviously the tough piece is that, more room obviously is needed, as far as the church itself. I don't know where that's at. It's tough because there's not a lot of land that's available and buildings that are available there. But I just see continued growth. I see, more people in Seneca coming to the Lord because I think it's needed. It's not needed. I think people are just thirsty for it, right?
Yeah.
They're just really hungry for it. And I think those things, much like Camp Tuckabatchee, when a church starts to get on fire and there's all of this movement, people want to know, right? And it might be folks that have known the Lord and they took a step back, or there's folks that have never known, but they see all those cars parked out on Main Street and they see people coming out and smiling and shaking hands and like, what is that, right? It's like the old Newsboys song that, the breakfast,
right?
Show them what you got, right?
Right.
So that's the part for me of what's super exciting of what the next step is. But I think there's going to be continued growth. Where that building is at, I don't know. What that looks like for Nicole and I don't know. But what I do know is that God works in such unbelievable ways and in ways that we don't understand, right? That we being obedient to that and seeing where that takes us, we just got to be open to it. And it could be things of like, I don't know about that, but yeah, you just pray and you go. And so I can tell you, this church feels the Village in Seneca right now, and I'm sure it's at every, church in, within the Village, but in Seneca, it is one of the first times I have felt like, man, these guys are looking at me for whatever reason more than just the drummer, right? Because I think it's easy, even as a church, to say, okay, we got check this box and we check this, and here's our drummer, and we know we're good here. And it's no fault. It's just there's a lot of moving parts, right? And so, but this is the first time to where it feels like, okay, so they're asked me to do a podcast, and then they've asked me to do this, and now I'm playing the drums, and now they're talking about, Brittany just on Sundays. It's like, so when are you going to get up and do announcements, or when are you going to, and I'm like, oh, slow down. I know, hold on, and so, but it's those things of, when you have a certain skill set, and maybe it's not even a skill that you think that you have. I think that's the most important thing for all of us, is that just being open to that and listening and being obedient to that. And so, so that to me is the exciting piece of like, I don't know 100% where God is going to take the Village and what building that looks like, or, yes, we need more, we potentially need more room and we need those things, right? But where the Village goes, I mean, right now God is the only one that really knows. But I'm going to tell you, man, I just want to ride that wave. I want to be a part of it, and I want to be such just a blessing to what He has in store for not only Seneca, but for the people that are in Seneca. Man, it's a fun thing to be a part of, and it almost brings me back to my scurvy days.
That's so good. Well, let me make a good plug for you guys. If you want to have a church that's pure of heart, that really loves the Lord, that's looking for a great, like if you just want to see it done with the purest and most humble of intentions. And if you want a full belly, because they'll feed you over there, like make no mistake, like if they have food on a Sunday, I don't know, I'd put it up there. It competes with any of our campuses for best food served. So check out the Village Christian Church in Seneca. Josh, can I put you on the spot? Would you close us in prayer?
Absolutely, I can.
I appreciate that.
Yep. Lord Jesus, we thank you so much for all the blessings that you have already done, and the things that you're going to do, not only for the Village in whole, but specifically for Seneca, the Seneca campus. We pray that you open up doors that we don't even see right now, Lord, but that we have the openness and we have the heart and the eyes to see that this is all you, Lord. I thank you so much for everything that you do for our family. Just continue to allow your spirit to move, Lord, and to bring people closer to you and have a better understanding. And man, just we love you so much, Lord. We love everything that you do in our lives and what you're going to do. And so I thank everybody here that's a part of this podcast, Lord, and I pray for Nick and the things that he has done and the things that he's going to do as lead pastor, and for Pastor Nate and for Patrick and for everybody in leadership at the Village, Lord, that they continue to lead with you, number one, and lead us in what we feel is in what you feel is the right direction. Lord, thank you so much for all your blessings, and it is always in your name. Amen.
Amen. Man, Josh, I can't tell you how special this one's been for me. This has been a real treat. Thanks for joining us today, huh?
Yeah, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for asking me.
Maybe not the last time, all right?
All right, bud. Absolutely.
All right. We'll talk again sometime.
All right.
Thank you so much for joining us for another great story. Make sure to click that subscribe button so you never miss our latest stories. And if you are in the market for a great church home, check us out at thevillagechristianchurch.com. We've got more great stories ahead, and we can't wait for you to hear them all. So until next time, keep living another great story.